Hello and good evening. I am your host and dungeon master, CranioDad, and I just did my own little audio check, so let me mute that so it doesn't confuse me. But this evening, I like to do what's called Behind the Screen, where I take you behind the Dungeon Master screen from the most recent game and talk about things that I noticed as a Dungeon Master, things that I had to account for, things that I am looking forward to, and things that the players missed. It's a chance to kind of do an autopsy episode by episode to let you, the audience, know, and in most cases, my players as well, what is going on in the campaign, where we're at, and what we are doing. So, last week was episode 10. They started off the episode, and I took my wife's advice from last week, and I jumped in and I did some narrative to get them through the rest of the city because Baldur's Gate could be a massive time suck at the table when it comes to the story. There's very little narrative that actually helps drive the campaign. It's more of a stopping point, a way station for them to get geared up, get entrenched with the caravan, and to start to figure out what's going on once the caravan leaves. So I was able to narrate them through Baldur's Gate. We did have a player's death that seemed to shake the players a little bit, but we'll see how that pans out. It was something that happened due to some circumstances in real life that we needed to account for, and in order to continue to drive the story, I didn't want to belabor the position. I make a habit of trying my best not to play characters, which I had to do on Friday, because ultimately, as I've always touted, I am the narrator of this amazing story, this tale that is being told of the people on the other end of this screen, on the at the table itself, rolling the dice and making the decisions. I'm just there to affect change on the decisions they make and to deal with and deal out the consequences that they sometimes elicit or deserve. So I really like having 5 players. Right now, we're currently down to 4. I like having 5 because in the event that somebody can't make it, that means there's still 4 at the table. And in my opinion, since most campaigns are geared towards 4 players of X level, I can always scale up for 5, but I can't really scale down for 3. I'm not that skilled as of yet. There are other DMs out there that are exceedingly well at doing that. I, however, am not, especially since I'm trying to run this book, Horde of the Dragon Queen, as true as possible to the book, with very little variance. So, yes, you can start bringing Raymond. That'd be fantastic, Gidgewitch. Just, we could get a little litter box, a little scratching post. We'll make it happen. So I did wind up having to play a player, but that's something I normally will not do. And I have also informed the players that now that we are down to 4 players, that if somebody is not going to be able to make it, I'm more likely going to call off the game, just because it makes it easier on everyone. So you might see some gaps in some of our play as we figure out what we're going to do for our players. If we're going to get 5 or 6 at the table, I am currently getting geared up to where I could host up to 6 on stream. So there is that. But anyway, let's talk about what all happened. So they get into the caravan, they get hired on. One of the things I pointed out in the last Behind the Screen is the fact that I literally have, I think, a page and a half of people who could hire these players, but I had about 3 paragraphs of contacts that they could make in Baldur's Gate in order to get into the caravan. So there's a lot that's left on the shoulders of the Dungeon Master to do. So we sorted that out quickly. We got through the first couple of days. And there's a lot of timed events that are going to be taking place, but none of them have taken place yet. They require a certain number of days away from Baldur's Gate or a certain number of days away from Daggerford, which is where they ended. They ended at Daggerford as they were pulling up to the gates that evening for the end of the episode. So in that time frame, I think we dealt with, I think it was 13 or 15 days worth of travel. I was able to go through and set up on Roll20 a whole bunch of options for them to have based on the rolls that they had for events, for encounters that they would run into while traveling. And thankfully they didn't roll any of the ones I wasn't able to set up, because I would just play that one by theater of the mind. I realized that theater of the mind is great for a lot of things, but when it comes to combat, it's really tough because there's a lot of spatial things that need to happen. So I've taken it upon myself as the dungeon master to be a little bit more diligent. I've embraced the idea of having a blank battle mat, so at least then I could have some characters and some tokens positioned to help the players decide where they're moving and what they're doing, and we can kind of suss things out. There was a point in time where I wanted to be more of a tabletop-based dungeon master, but as I've expanded my digital reach, I've realized the necessity for me to be more of a digital dungeon master at this point. But they ran into quite a few encounters. There was, there was a golden elk or golden stag deer that they hunted after and found to be imprisoned elf prince that they just kind of accepted the bow and let walk away without pressing for too many more details, which I put on me more than anything else. I think that there was an opportunity that was missed to get more narrative. There is a potential hook for a mini adventure, if you will. There's also a potential hook for more information as to what's going on with the Dragon Cult that exists with that mini encounter. It's kind of up to me to put that in play, but it didn't really go that way the way conversation was going. They also had an encounter with a couple of birds that really was interesting. There was a lot of a good teamwork, and again, what I said last week still reigns completely true this past week, and will always reign true. Is that this group is really good at being tacticians. They take into account a lot of the spatial anomalies that happen with combat, and they have a really good push of just getting through, not the fight, but to effectively engage in combat, of being aware of who may be getting teamed up on, who may need help, of having the heavy hitters who are having a good night for the rolls kind of work through all the ads while they actually have a tank who's starting to tank things. So there's a lot that was happening that was very much emulated with a lot of the encounters from last week. And that makes me as a Dungeon Master extremely excited to see that the group is able to cohesively handle spur of the moment, everybody roll initiative, here's what's going on, and now I'm attacking you. And they handled it extremely well. So the encounter that seemed to raise the most in question for me was the encounter with the noble. Now, I've gone back and I've watched the VOD, which you can find here on Twitch. I've also watched it when I was uploading it and loading it to YouTube this afternoon. There were some issues with YouTube not getting my file correctly and all that fun stuff, so I wasn't able to upload it on Monday, which is what I prefer to do. But in my opinion, I was being rather clear, but it was apparent that to the players, I was not being clear. That though this person who espoused to be a noble may have given a false house, that he was still a noble of Waterdeep. And thankfully, because I think the Wednesday campaign that I play on Gidgewish's channel takes place in Waterdeep, and Gidgewish is, as the DM, has spent a large amount of time studying all the things that go in with Waterdeep pertaining to nobles and things along those lines. He was able to call out, don't kill this guy. We did see him literally beat his horse to death and then beat a dead horse. Don't kill this guy because he knew, as a player, and he would have known this as well, but also as a person, that if the party would have killed a noble from Waterdeep, then it would not have ended well for the party when they reach Waterdeep, which is where they are going. So with one hit point left, they spared him. And it was a good fight. I wasn't really in agreement with the CR level that the book has them fighting in this encounter. I don't know if they're expecting them to be more diplomatic, and that may be the case. But knowing my players, the moment that they see this guy beating this horse to death, I knew they were going to act. And they went up against a knight and a mage, CR3 and a CR5, which isn't bad. Yeah, just didn't realize he was part of the work. Again, I think I could have made that more clear, Gidgewish. I think that's mostly on me. To me, I thought I was being clear, but it's evident that I wasn't, and so I do apologize. But I think you guys handled it well, without having any ill effects. And I don't think I would have let you had any ill effects because, knowing how we are, we would have talked about it anyway. But all that being said, they handled it really well. I love the fact that they decided to levitate him, and then they were able to get him into a cage, and then he was taken with them to Daggerford. So at this point, we're at an interesting point in the story, because one of I think the biggest social problems that happens with Horde of the Dragon Queen is the fact that there is so little information about the Dragon Cultists. And yes, you're not completely lost in the story. The caravan isn't full of Dragon Cultists, but there are wagons with Dragon Cultists in this caravan. And that will become more clear post Daggerford. That's actually one of the triggers. But and that kind of goes exactly with what I was saying. There's so much ambiguity with what is happening with the Cult of the Dragon, up until they get past Daggerford, and we're in the middle of chapter 4, and at the end of chapter 4, we're halfway through the book. And I know that there's a lot of other DMs out there who have taken a lot of, and rightfully so, a lot of liberty with how they have rewritten portions of this campaign to give the hooks earlier. But again, that's the problem with saying, I'm going to run this as close as possible to the book, is that there's so much more information I want the players to have, and they just, they don't get it. I mean, I did have Vander get some early knowledge that I think he tried to convey to the party, but with his passing, I don't know how much they're going to recollect. And the other problem is that, and this is completely on me, it's my style of DMing, is that there's so much travel and so little expository, solution-based combat. So what you wind up having is a lot of players who are finding themselves in a situation that they're in the situation because the DM put them there, but at the end of the situation, there's no real knowledge gain. There's no resolution towards some idea of what's going on. I mean, there's little nuggets that eventually come to light, and I think that for me, there's the fun part of it, right? Like, there are things the players have overheard or have discovered that will not make sense until we start doing Rise of Tiamat. They won't even make sense through the rest of Horde of the Dragon Queen. But it will start to make sense in Rise of Tiamat. And I love being that kind of DM and that kind of person, to where something small will happen or be said or take place, or you'll witness something that seems completely inconsequential. And if I can have moments down the line to where you go, oh crap, I remember when we were back in XYZ and this person said that, this is what they were talking about. Holy crap, we've known more than what we thought. Because when I give the players opportunities, and this is where the evidence is, when I give the players the opportunities to exposit to me what they think they know, they are leaving out things that I know that they should know, but I think they are discounting it as hearsay or inconsequential, or just some random non-important piece of crap knowledge that they didn't need, and so it wasn't written down or it's not remembered. So I think that's where the good side of the Tyranny of Dragons set, so Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat, come into play. And I keep pointing over here, like you guys can see, my bookshelf, to see all of the campaign manuals that I have where Rise of the Tiamat is. But anyway, deal with it. That's what life is like. And it's interesting to see what they are either electively forgetting or just forcefully not remembering is taking place or has taken place, because they've missed on 2 separate occasions the opportunity to tell me things that I know that they know that should start at this point, once they reach Baldur's Gate, should have started to make a little bit more sense. And I think that where the luster of Horde of the Dragon Queen shines the brightest is in scenarios where you either have 6 to 8 hours to play D&D for a couple of days in a month, or you have the technological advantage that we do now to where my players can go back and watch video on demand. They can go over to the YouTube channel and listen to the story again and take better notes. And it's my hope that in time that they may consider doing that. I know that we've got a couple of really good note takers, but I also know that sometimes the devil's in the details, man. There's been things that have been said that have never been mentioned again at the table that would let the players have a much bigger idea of what's going on. But, you know, that's kind of the joy of being on this side of the screen and having, you know, this purview and this purchase that I've got. Yeah, I've got the fountain of wealth. You know, I've got all the knowledge right here that they're supposed to have. I've already read the next book. You know, I've watched other groups play. I've been able to compile and figure things out. I've got my own notes. I found other sources for notes that have really good detailed notes that I'll probably share at the end of the campaign that have really helped me out a lot. But regardless of that, you know, I still can't wait until these pieces and these dots start to connect. And yeah, I see your comment, Gidge, which it sounds a bit like Dragon Heist. And yeah, we're progressing slow through the campaign, but I think that Dragon Heist is like one more step into the abyss than Horde of the Dragon Queen is. I think that, you know, at least from my point of view, I haven't read Dragon Heist yet because we're playing it. Anytime I see it come up, I try not to watch it because I want it to be the campaign that you are running. But you know, I have the source knowledge. I've watched other campaigns play, so I think that there's a lot more knowledge that's inherent. But I'm trying to find better ways to pull that knowledge out. So, all in all, I would say that Friday was a really good game. I think that they handled a lot of the situations extremely well, considering that they were basically being railroaded into a couple things and are on this caravan. I don't think that your comments alone, Gizwish, about feeling lost in the story is not just you. I think that is part of the intent of what's supposed to happen, but I think it's a little too big. I think that to me, when I look at you guys and I watch you guys play, it feels like you guys are in a dreamlike state. Not that you aren't playing, not that you're not interacting, but that everything's a little bit hazy. And I think that I need to pull the veil back a little bit. So I've decided to make a few intentional changes to some of the things that are going to happen once you guys leave Daggerford. And that's kind of where we're going to settle in for a little bit on this this broadcast. So there's a lot that's going to be happening coming up once they leave Daggerford that's going to be bringing the Dragon Cultists back to the forefront of their mind and showing them that everybody has been dismissing the Dragon Cult as kind of this weird cult, literally a cult of people that just like to rob things, but they've seen this uptick in their activity in the last few weeks. That idea is going to get smashed. It's going to get shattered, left on the ground, ground into dust underneath the boot heels of those that walk across it. And it's going to be brought right up to the forefront that, you know, there's a lot that has been going on and they are further along and that they might actually be able to do what they're trying to do. And they have cause to show that. And some of the stuff is going to become a very like in your face visible as they're going along the road. It's to become very apparent when the party gets to Waterdeep. I don't know if they'll get to Waterdeep at the end of the next session. It might be 2 sessions just because there's a lot that transpires for the last half of this trip that I want to be very diligent on. And then Waterdeep in and of itself, it'll be a session, maybe 2. I'm not 100% sure. But you were thinking the whole caravan was bad guys. No, it's not. I should have been more clear about that. It was mentioned a little bit 2 sessions ago when it was talked about that from the spies that they were going to try to embed into the caravan. The caravan's already scheduled. There's one that goes out every 10 days or so. and that there's a lot of merchants that go back and forth between Waterdeep and Baldur's Gate, and that this is the most likely place where they will try to get some of the wagons in as part of the caravan. So I could have been a little more clear on that, but then again, there's a lot of up in the air what's going on with this campaign, and you guys are kind of left hanging out and hoping that you can get everything figured out. But I'm going to try to give a lot more intentful knowledge with some of the things that are going to happen. It's going to be interesting what is ahead of us. Again, I'm not sure what's going to happen overall with the party. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Like, for example, I wound up working from home today because my youngest two kids have croup, and yay parenting. But they have croup, so that has wiped me out. Just dealing with that. It's also wiped my wife out. We're emotionally and physically and mentally taxed dealing with two sick little ones, and two that are high on life and full of energy. So, hopefully I can recover enough from that. I'll still be able to play tomorrow because playing is easy, DMing is not. But there's a lot that's going on in life for the party. So we're trying to figure some things out. I want to get some more people at the table because I like having people who could be backups or one-shots or things along those lines, just to make sure that the momentum keeps going, that I can impart knowledge. And that's why I think one of the most useful tools as a DM is to bring somebody in as a one-shot character to a persistent campaign that has the knowledge that they need to have, that there's really either it's been missed, it's been walked by, nobody's paid attention, or there's really no other way that they could get this knowledge or this thing that they need. I think that the most beautiful and simplistic instance of this was when Chris Perkins guested on Critical Role, where he literally played a character for about 5 minutes, and that was just to give the players something. That was his whole intent. It was amazing. It was beautiful. It was hilarious. But it was a tool that Matt Mercer, the Dungeon Master, was able to use and invoke to get the characters something that they needed. And so I also like having variety. I like having guests. I like having somebody who is a passerby to kind of make this feel more of a world event. I want there to be little interactions that they have of fighting side by side with somebody who they might not ever see again, but that person is going to then, go a different direction, and who knows what the next campaign is going to be. That might come into play. There's a lot of things that shoot off from this, and I don't know what direction we're going to go. I literally the options are all on the table. There's a few things that I won't do, just because I'm a huge proponent of keeping variety. And right now in where we live in Richmond, Virginia, there are I watch and I'm part of 3 separate campaigns that are all trying to run their own things. We had Waterdeep on 2 channels at one point in time, and that was fine. That's not a big deal. But if I were to run Waterdeep, then that makes no sense. We have people that are getting ready to do Storm King's Thunder, which I'm really intrigued to watch. Fingers crossed, the Wednesday group down the line is going to start doing Dungeon of the Mad Mage, but that leaves me, a few fun options, and I'm that kind of DM that I really like the fun options. I like the things like Tomb of Annihilation, that I would love to run, and I don't know. There's also Out of the Abyss and a few other ones, but I'm getting way ahead of myself because that's probably not going to be until about June or July. So, but at this pace, we're doing really well. We just had our 10th episode. All characters are level 4. I am making the decision that probably in the beginning of Chapter 5 or at the end of Chapter 4, the characters will most likely level to 5. I have yet to be able to find anywhere in the books where it says that for milestone level here for for level 5. And again, I may just be missing it. That may just be me like sight reading and line reading stuff, but I haven't been able to find it yet. So I've kind of got to make the decision based on some things that are coming up. And I've looked at, some of the challenges that are happening in Chapter 5. And I think that with 4 people at level 5, it makes it a pretty balanced game. If not, there'll be a second wave, of things that they're going to have to deal with. But if I get 5 people, then I'm definitely going to have to beef it up. But when I look ahead to like chapter 6, there's a lot of other things that are going on that just it doesn't make sense for them to wait that long. So anyway, long and short of it, crazy stuff happened. The party is doing really well. Everybody is a little confused, but stuck in a caravan. They reached Daggerford. They're about, I want to say, almost halfway to Waterdeep, give or take. I think the party's making really good time, not just in game, but in story. We are at the end of chapter 4, which we are nearing the end of chapter 4. We will be halfway through with Horde of the Dragon Queen by page count. So that's huge. And it's going to be interesting. So to talk about some of the other things that we have going on just in general. So Defenders of the Skull is something that I'm working on. It's going to be kind of like the overarching group that what this channel eventually becomes will be Defenders of the Skull. And that will be all the little mini campaigns and persistent campaigns that I'm going to try to run, host, or play in from my stream. So that's why you guys have been seeing Defenders of the Skull. I have got some texts about that. So awesome. That means people are seeing it and asking questions. That's exactly why I do things like that. For the giveaway, we are currently at 23 followers. So we've got a ways to go to get to 40 to give away more items, but all items are here in-house and ready to be shipped. So the only thing that the players cannot win is the big prize at the end. So there's that. I'm still racing for 100. My goal, my personal goal would be hopefully by the end of June. I would like to be at 100, but we'll see where we are. There's going to be some changes to Dissonant Whispers once we reach 50 followers. So that's something to kind of watch out for. And you're almost 700 chat messages down on the leaderboard. Yeah, man, there's some people who will chat the entire stream, and I love it. But once we get to 50 followers, that's going to change. It's going to follow the more traditional model. It's going to be based on bits, donations, and subscriptions and follows, kind of falling in line with everyone else. I am still planning on starting a group that's probably going to play on Saturdays. We'll see what happens in the next month, but probably going to play on Saturdays. I am intending on getting out there early with Ghosts of the Saltmarsh. So I'm going to start reaching out to the local community first, and then reaching out beyond that to try to get some players on board. It's going to be a Discord and Roll20 only game, not here in my house, because with 4 kids, 2 dogs, I can't clean the house that often. That's just not going to happen. So that campaign will start end of May, early June. The book comes out tentatively right now, May 21st, and my intent is to start on the 28th of May. So I'm going to be speed reading and power reading and setting everything up that I can, as well as having conversations with the players, and probably at day 0 at bare minimum on the 28th. Those of you that follow may have gotten an alert on yesterday, actually, that I was streaming. I was playing Sea of Thieves. So what I am doing is, in order to just kind of get the look and feel and figure some things out for Twitch, I've got to test a lot of different things, and one of those things is playing just straight up video games. I love playing video games when I have time, usually once the kids are in bed. I have a lot of fun. I am not very good, but it's something I really enjoy doing, and Sea of Thieves is absolutely friggin' fantastic. It is 2 parts epic, 1 part stressful, about 6 parts fun. So it's not completely, it's not a mindless game, but it's a really good game. But I'm setting some things up to play some other games, so you'll see alerts like that. And they're never really going to be scheduled. They might get announced. I doubt it. But I am working on learning some other things about how Twitch works and how I stream and things along those lines, and what my audience interaction is for different things. So you guys will see alerts like that. But right now, my personal tentative schedule is that behind the scenes will be on Tuesdays, sometime around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then you will see me play on Gidgewitch's channel on Wednesdays. Fridays will still be Harlequin's Requital. Saturdays will eventually become Ghost of the Saltmarsh. Don't know what we're going to call ourselves yet. That's up to the party, not up to me. And then once Ghost of the Saltmarsh goes live, things are going to get all sorts of crazy because I've got to figure out. It might be to where I do the behind the scenes on Monday for Harlequin's Requital, and then I do behind the screen on Tuesday for Ghost of the Saltmarsh, because I want to have a couple of days in between so I can take my notes, read over my notes, watch the video on demand, because even though I broadcast it and I live it, I still watch it at least once on video on demand or on YouTube when it goes live. Publishing on YouTube is just going to be straight publishing going forward. I really don't have the bandwidth to continue to premiere a 3 or 4 hour show once a week. So, and then interspersed through all of that, you'll see random moments where I'll hop online and I'll be playing a video game. If you have a game that you want to play, let me know. Reach out to me here on Twitch, or reach out to me on you can DM me on Twitter. And let me know. We'll see what we can get stood up and make happen. I actually like playing with people, but it's just me testing a lot of things out. So don't think that this is turning into some strange video game channel. My whole premise has always been Dungeons and Dragons. It will always be Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, that's one of my problems too, Gidgewitch, is you can't fast forward YouTube premieres. I think it's cool in its concept, but I think the execution is they're trying to make themselves like what we're doing right here, right now. We're premiering. Hey, guys, guess what? Welcome to the premiere of Harlequin's Review behind the screen, recapping episode 10. Right now, you can chat with me. You can like this later. You can follow. You can give bits once I get to 50 followers. You can do a lot more and interact with me while we're premiering the live event. So I know that YouTube has a YouTube live thing, but I see some problems with that as well. So not knocking it, just not my cup of tea. But anyway, with that, we've been going now for about 40 minutes. If there's any other questions from the folks in chat, now's a good time to ask. If not, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping things up, because I would like to get back to watching Castle Mac. Tonight they are playing a bunch of evil characters, and I just love these guys to death. I think they're great. If you don't want to follow me, that is fine, but please go follow them. They need it. They're awesome. They're great to watch. They don't need the follow. They deserve the follow. But without any other further questions, I am probably going to go ahead and end this now. So thank you so much for hanging out. I'm going to launch a raid, get you guys over to Castle Mac, give them a watch, give them some cheers, say some nice things. Their Star Trek episode was fantastic, and their Cthulhu Y2K episode was absolutely hilarious. So if you were to only watch 2 episodes, the Star Trek episode was pretty good. If you want to watch something hilarious, watch the Cthulhu episode on their video on demand. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. It's been a pleasure. I enjoy being your host and your Dungeon Master, not just for behind the screens, but for Harlequin's Requital. I'll see you guys on Gidgewitch's channel on Wednesday, and on my channel on Friday, unless something changes. Life is life. Take it easy, y'all.